So in societies with dowries, what we're effectively seeing is that the bride's family is paying for a better groom. And the question then becomes, well, why are grooms valuable and why are brides so cheap? Well, the answer, of course, is no one has any idea. Right? These things were developed a long time before anyone actually thought about what might be going on. But most societies tend to be dowry societies. So there's some clues in that. Right? Polygamous societies tend to be dour. Right? So it's got something to do with there being one husband and one wife. Well, one reason is that sons are more valued, right, in most societies around the planet. Sorry to say, girls. Why are sons more valued?
They can carry on the family name.
Carry on the family name, but also more importantly from the point of view of a grandparent. Grandkids, plus you move into your sons. Your son then earns the money and the son takes care of the grandparents. Right? Western societies, again, we're weird. We have retirement homes. Most of the world has never heard of those things. What happens? You move in with your son or your daughter when you're too infirm. What happens in China when you only have one son or one daughter? Well, you better hope they have a pretty good income because they're going to have to pay for you when you're retired. So a poor family's daughter would, or another way to think about it is if you think about the assets. So if you're, in a patrilineal society, the son's going to get everything in the family. So all the family's money passes to the son's side, the daughter's side gets nothing. In patrilineal societies, when you get rid of a daughter, you're in a sense marrying a daughter into that household, right? Your daughter's going to get nothing if she doesn't find a groom. So in a sense, you're paying to get her a groom, to get her some assets, because that's the way she'll inherit assets, is through her husband. Because in patrilineal societies, women don't get anything under the divisions. Your parents die, all goes to the son. So imagine in a patrilineal society like this with dowry, if you had a shift in demand for grooms. So there's a great case of this, and this is what's going on in China at the moment. So what is this graph showing? It's showing what's called the SRB. That means the sex ratio at birth. What is that? Basically, it's the ratio of the number of boys born to the number of girls born. Okay, so think about 1975. So I'm picking on China here, but I could just as easily put Pakistan up there, Afghanistan, a lot of South Asian countries up there. You're not going to see this much in the West, and I'll explain why. So what's going on? Why do boys outnumber girls at birth? Is that because Mother Nature is biased? Oh, yeah, no, that's later on. But yeah, no, actually, even without that, there are more boys born than girls. Because generally, boys die. Boys generally die of many more things before the age of 5 than girls. Even if there was if it was completely impartial society, a gender-neutral society that simply didn't care, more boys are born with defects and more boys are born with other sorts of problems, just genetically, than girls are. So let's imagine 106 is close to the natural rate. Right? So that's basically what you see in the West. What you see in the West is there's about 6% more boys born than girls, but since more boys die young, that tends to balance out. So once you get to about 30 or 40, like here, you've got an equal number of boys and girls. But what's happened in China, what you're seeing is the sex ratio at birth is rising over time. Now, this isn't due to pesticides in the water or cancer or residual fallout from nuclear warfare or anything like this. This is due to what's called selective infanticide, or selective abortion. So what happens in China is parents go get sonograms, and if it's a girl, then they may just abort the girl rather than give birth to the girl. So you can see this is leading to an awful lot more boys being born than girls being born. What also tends to happen is that if you have a girl as your firstborn, then you will have another child. What are you doing? You're hoping for a son. Right? You're hoping your second-born is a son, because, again, if you're a grandparent in China, there's no Social Security. You've got to hope that there's a son born so that you can move into his house when you're 80. So you roll again, and maybe you have another girl. So what do? No luck this time, you roll again. And what tends to happen is the ratio of males to females goes up. So think of an increasingly desperate Chinese household, right? First baby, girl, bad luck. Second baby, girl again, shit. Third baby. What tends to happen is, the sex ratio of birth, as you go up through the birth order of the children, gets worse and worse and worse. So the sex ratio of birth, this is just an average, is a lot higher in third and fourth children, simply because they want to roll the dice again. They don't want to have another girl, so they keep doing this. It's also worse in rural areas. So poor and rural regional areas tend to have higher. So this is actually an aggregate, I think, for all of China. This isn't even the worst ones. So again, what you're seeing is a result of parents effectively getting rid of girl children because they don't want them. Okay, I mean, it's a tragedy. As an economist, we'll skip past all that, right? And we'll say, okay, what's the consequence of this? Means in the next generation as these Chinese boys get older, you can see it's getting worse recently. As these Chinese boys get older, it means there's going to be a lot more boys around, even if boys die more often than girls, by the time they reach their 20s and 30s and 40s, and they're looking to enter the marriage market. So what's going to happen in the marriage market? What will you see? You'll see a lot more grooms out there in China than there are brides, simply because a lot fewer future brides are being born than future grooms. So how might we analyze it as a completely heartless economist? So as a completely heartless economist, you might say, okay, well, what impact is this going to have on dowry? Well, if you're thinking about more grooms being born relative to the number of brides, what we'll do is we'll hold the number of brides fixed at D0, and we'll increase the supply of grooms. That's our S-curve. So our supply curve shifts out. What do we see? Well, we'll see the dowry price, in a sense, falls. The price that the bride's family has to pay to get rid of that girl, because girls are now scarcer than before, that price of buying a groom, or the other way to think about it is there's a lot more bloody grooms out there than before. They're popping up everywhere. And you can't find a daughter. You can't find a marriageable girl for your son, so you lower the price. So what we might expect to happen in China is, over the long run, this is going to reverse that dowry. And in fact, it could flip. What you might see is sort of a bride price arising in China, because you have so many more men than women looking to marry, that might flip this thing over, and in fact, a girl may become, again, valuable. Okay, think in the long run. What's that going to mean for the market? What happens if that flips over and girls become more valuable than boys? What might we see?